guys, welcome to Rebel Media. On September 18th to the 23rd of 1863, the Battle of Chickamauga took place. It was a Confederate victory because they lost about 20% of their guys. And today, even though it's raining, we're here at Chickamauga. Well, because of the rain, I'm kind of following the driving tour. I've never been here before, but this is where the Louisianans were positioned. On the night of September 19th, 1863, after the first day of fighting had finally ended, the two armies regrouped and planned their strategy for the next day. Exhausted from the day's fighting, the Union soldiers still could not rest. They built breastworks of logs and rails and earth to defend against the attacks that would surely come in the morning. It was an unusually cold night, but the Confederates were so near that campfires were not allowed. A Wisconsin soldier had wrote,
"We had a slight frost. We lay on our arms without blankets or even coats, having thrown away everything but gun and ammunition."
Initially wounded not far from here the following morning was Confederate Brigadier General Benjamin Helm, who was the brother-in-law of President Abraham Lincoln. He was leading his Kentuckians against the breastworks when a bullet pierced his right side, and he later died that night. Lincoln had offered him a position in the Union Army, but he decided to go with the Confederate Army instead. And when President Lincoln learned that his favorite brother-in-law had been killed at Chickamauga, it said he was visibly stricken. It is said that Helm's death hurt Lincoln as much as the death of his son Willie, who was stricken with fever in 1862.
Private August Brotnover, a Union infantryman, wrote this account of the action here on September 20th. Brotnover served in the 10th Wisconsin Infantry.
As soon as it was light, we were marched to the front, in line with the rest of our brigade. By this time, we were in good fighting condition. Everybody was anxious to go ahead and do something. We were about out of provisions, too. Even water was scarce with us. All the forenoon, we were moved around in the woods without seeing the enemy. We could see the line come up through the underbrush in good order, then waver. A number would fall. The rest would turn and steal out sights and distance.
This is the position of Hazen's brigade, and we saw his monument already over at Stones River. Always cool when you connect the dots on these things. Right here we're looking at the Alabama monument. I'm really impressed with all the monuments they have here at Chickamauga. Here we rest. In tender memory of Alabama's soldiers who fought and fell on Chickamauga battlefield, this shaft shall point to those exciting scenes and visions long since flown, for memory is the only friend that grief can call its own. This is a very cool part of the battlefield, guys. I just saw 4 deer in there. I can't zoom, but they're there. I'll have to see if we can see them on the editing. It's a major battle right here. Over there is the Georgia Monument. We're gonna go drive over there and check it out. But it's That's the largest one on the field, I hear, so we gotta go see what that looks like up close. General William S. Rosecrans, as I call him, Old Rosie, the Union commander, received a bogus report that Brandon's division was out of position, which would have created a huge gap in the Union battle line, when in fact, Brandon's men were concealed in the woods directly behind him. In a move to close the supposed gap, Rosecrans dispatched an order to Brigadier General Thomas Wood to move to the left. The departure of Wood's division opened a real gap in the Union battle line. Meanwhile, Confederate Lieutenant General James Longstreet was prepared to make a massive attack that would hit the Union line right at that vulnerable point. Right here it says 50 men wounded. 50 men killed, 426 wounded, and 4 missing. One enlisted man killed, 2 wounded, 8 horses killed, 2 wounded. Right here, guys, was where the Poe House was. They farmed all these lands right here, and their house burned down during the battle. This is where it used to be. Here's the Alabama Battery, Williams Artillery Battalion. Two killed, 1 wounded, 1 dead horse, and wounded 3. Sorry about the road noise, gang. Here we are, further walking the Confederate line. This is the Florida Battery position. You could say Chickamauga is where Longstreet got his mojo back after Gettysburg. His aggressive performance earned him the nickname the Old Bull of the Woods. And at Chickamauga, the Confederates, for once, were outnumbered by the Federals, 65,000 to 62,000 men, but they also took worse casualties. And even though it was a Confederate victory, it was a victory that, because of poor generalship by Braxton Bragg, achieved very little to reassure the Southern people that not all was lost in Tennessee. I just stopped right here. This is the headquarters spot of Buckner. George and Mary Brotherton and their children lived in this log house. In the surrounding fields, they grazed cattle, grew corn and hay. To escape the battle, some of the Brothertons and other local families took to refuge in a ravine about a mile from here. There they endured hunger and cold and prayed for their boys serving in the Confederate Army. Tom Brotherton, one of the sons, played a key role in the battle because Tom knew every pig trail through these woods, General Longstreet said, and employed him as a scout. And Tom served with pride, telling his brother Jim, "It's a sorry lad that won't fight for his own home." Jim Brotherton also fought for the South.
Brigadier General Bushrod Johnson, commander of a Confederate division, wrote this account of the breakthrough here on September 20th. Johnson's men led the attack.
The scene now presented was unspeakably grand. The resolute and impetuous charge, the rush of our heavy columns sweeping out from the shadows and gloom of the forest into the open fields flooded with sunlight. The glitter of arms, the onward dash of artillery and mounted men, retreat of the foe, the shouts of the hosts of our army, the dust, the smoke, the noise of firearms, the whistling balls and grape shot and a bursting shell made up a battle scene of unsurpassed grandeur. Here, General Hood gave me the last order I received from him on the field. Go ahead and keep ahead of everything. How well this order was obeyed will be best determined by those who investigate all the details of this battle.
Hans Seehag of the 15th Wisconsin Brigade. He was killed right here. On the afternoon of September 19th, 1863, Haig was charging forward at the front of his troops, and he was shot in the abdomen. He managed to stay in the saddle for a short time, but loss of blood compelled him to leave the field and move to a hospital, where behind the lines, he died the next day. This is the Wilder Monument of the famous Lightning Brigade. The man who equipped his cavalry with Spencer repeating rifles. I was just listening to the tour on the recording, and it said that this is where he sprung into action with his men. That they just cut down a ton of guys in like 3 minutes with their rifles. And that the monument is set where there used to be a cabin where a 23-year-old widow used to live, and also was Rosecrans' headquarters at one point. That is a big monument, gang. I wonder if you can go in it. There he is. Denied. Closed for the season. So far, guys, the only thing I really can complain about at this place is that little speaker thing doesn't work. But that's about it. Truly, such a beautiful battlefield. It's hard to imagine all the death and suffering that happened here. As you can see, this place is huge, and it would take you forever to explore it all. I just kept thinking to myself that I couldn't wait to come back. Walking up to the spot where William Haynes Little fell, and just look at all these fields. This is a beautiful place. The alleged shooter has never been discovered. All that is known for sure is that the shooter was a Confederate sniper with a .45 caliber percussion rifle. However, according to the history presented by the Daughters of the Confederacy, the shooter was Hillary Garrison Waldrop of Company B of the 16th Alabama Regiment of Infantry. In order to make the shot, it was approved personally by General Bragg. He had adjusted the sights on his rifle for 200 yards beyond where they normally were. When he fell off his horse, the horse ran into Confederate lines, and Bragg gave Hillary Garrison Waldrop his bed, his horse, bedroll, and equipment, and then sold the horse for $100.
To the west is a ridge across the open field. Around 11:30 in the morning of September 20th, Union Brigadier General William Haynes Lytle's brigade marched north from the Widow Glen's house, near the Wilder Brigade monument at tour stop number 6, and began occupying a position on this ridge across from you in an attempt to support crumbling Union troops in their front. Confederate troops from General Zachariah C. Days' brigade burst through the woods to the south, sweeping the Federal troops before them. General Lytle, who had achieved national fame as a poet, was killed while attempting to hold his position on the ridge. The Confederates recognized his remains and returned him to Union forces after the battle. This entire field quickly filled with Confederates as they pushed west and north after their breakthrough at the Brotherton cabin.
Look how close these dudes are. Three of them all looking at me. Coming up on the spot here where John Bell Hood got wounded and lost his leg a little later, but this is where it went down, right here. I guess we're wrapping it up here at Chickamauga, and I'll be back. I didn't even scratch the surface. I just kind of did the driving tour and took a couple trails along the way. And we're ending here at the Florida Monument, which I saw on the way in. If you guys have never been here and you're into this stuff and you're into studying the war, definitely come here because it's awesome. Wish I could stay another day, but headed down to Kennesaw Mountain tomorrow, so gotta head 2 hours south. So see you down the road, guys. Thanks for watching.